Neighbors lurking in the dark mini updates. Okay, so a few things have happened, but none were really worth an update on their own. But I feel like I have enough now. My coworkers have been following me home from work for most days. My neighbors, I'm pretty sure, have been waiting for me, as I don't get home until late, and their lights are always on in one room in their house, the room that overlooks my driveway. But with a witness escorting me, the neighbors have stayed quiet for the last few weeks. The woman occasionally comes outside when she notices me out front, but I'm not out there much, so she usually doesn't come out in time. Once while I'm in my garage, doing some minor work on my car, I heard some rustling just to the side of my garage door. I knew the woman was out there, so I just closed the garage door. Another time she came out while I was moving some bins. She muttered something, and I know she was talking to me, as we were the only ones out there. But I didn't hear what she said and didn't much care. I just ignored her. I can't always get escorted home at night. After a few nights of having no escort, I think they caught on to the pattern. I came home one night, and they had their garage door open, which they do when they're wanting to harass me. Unfortunately for them, I was delayed, and didn't get home until midnight, rather than at 11 p.m., and they weren't out anymore. Anyways, I figured that I should probably know that these people's names are and what they look like, so I did a public record search on their address. The woman came up with 3 last names, so it seems she's been married and divorced before. I went looking for these people on Facebook, just so I could verify that I was getting the correct people. The man didn't seem to have an account, but the woman did. There are comments below a picture she posted of a Chucky doll, and the bride of the Chucky doll. And on it she says the one on the left, so that's what she means. She's the bride and Chucky is her groom. I don't know why she's convinced I'm the psycho one, seriously. I don't say or do anything to these people. I'm not the one lurking in the dark, screaming insults, or posting crazy all over online, making vague threats about how things were done back in the day. I noticed the dates in the post. She's not only writing about me being nosy, but also seems paranoid that I was stalking on her Facebook, even though I never even looked her up until just a few weeks ago. She has me all over her friggin' Facebook. She seems way too convinced that people are interested in their lives somehow. I wouldn't even care that they existed if they weren't causing me problems. So now, I am watching her Facebook page. I don't want to. I really don't care about this person. But now, I have to check it periodically just in case she posts something else about me. So maybe I can get an early warning if she's planning an attack or something like that. And I have to be ready to screen cap anything incriminating before it gets taken down. This annoys me almost as much as their harassment. I don't want to waste my time having to keep tabs on social media of someone I'd rather just pretend doesn't exist. I hate that she's making me waste my time and attention on her. I'll send no friend request to her or anyone she knows. I'll send no message to her or anyone she knows. I'll make no tagging her or anyone she knows, and I will have no contact. But as long as it's public, I'm going to keep an eye on it and just wish I didn't have to. Anyways, the reason I'm writing today is because they're adjusting their tactics. After some silence after their last lecture from the police, they've decided to stay off camera. Today in the daytime, I stepped out of my house and went to my mailbox. I heard some noises from inside their house, but didn't care much. I figured they were bickering amongst themselves. Then, I heard the woman loudly saying something to the effect of, "She's right out there, do it," followed immediately by the man shouting out his window, "Hey fucking cunt, fuck off," which was obviously directed at me. Why even do that? I haven't done anything. I'd ask what their problem is, but I really don't care. Unfortunately, as they weren't outside, I wasn't recording. For the first time in a long time, I responded. I simply said this: "How badly do you want a restraining order?" Funny enough, I didn't get a respond. Then I got in my car and left for work, where I am now. I'm sick of calling the police. I'm going to the station tomorrow and filing a formal complaint. Neighbors lurking in the dark, 5. Shortly after my last update, My boyfriend came home from Afghanistan, and do you know? My neighbor shut the fuck up. A few times I found the woman lurking outside, very near the property line, just staring at me as she does. I'd see her doing this. As I would pull into my driveway, I'd get out and she'd stare. But then my boyfriend got out of the car too, and she turned right around and walked away. But now he's gone again. It took the neighbors a few weeks, but they did notice. March 6, 2016. Sometime after 11 p.m., I just got home from work. I was driving my boyfriend's car that night and pulled it straight into the garage and immediately shut the garage door behind me. I didn't see them outside when I pulled onto my property, but as soon as I got out of my car, I heard him. He was screaming his random insults again. I can't be 100% sure, but I thought he sounded like he was standing in my driveway, just on the other side of my garage door. I didn't say anything. I just went in the door that connects my garage to my house. A little while later, I went outside. The guy only comes out for me, and he probably figured I was in for the night, so I reckon the coast was clear enough for me to get my mail and take out my trash. Nope! The man and woman both come out hooting and hollering. The usual insults telling me that I'm somehow the psycho one and telling me to move. I tell them that I have more than enough evidence to press charges. The man says he doesn't care, but quickly retreats inside. When I demand to know if he was on my property, he wouldn't answer that on camera. Anyone who remembers the previous video knows that these people just scream insults and don't have to have any particular complaint, and apparently the cops told them off for it. So now they think they can get away with their crazy harassment. If some were in, they throw in a complaint, if only to have it on video regardless of how untrue it is. Recently, they now accuse me of revving my engine. Obviously, I wasn't. March 24th. This one I do have a good video of it. It was 1 a.m. and I was asleep. The doorbell rang. My dogs went nuts. Now, we just had a bad snowstorm, so I thought maybe it was someone who got their car stuck on the streets out front and needed some help. It's happened before still. I wasn't dumb enough to just open the door. Instead, I opened my second-story window, and it's a good thing. The man was out there ranting and raving away. He started his nonsense by claiming he didn't want to go to jail, even though he was doing the exact thing he was warned would land him in jail, and now on my property doing it. He called me psycho and ugly and so on, blah 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 blah. And since he was being recorded a bullshit complaint, apparently I'm revving my engine, despite being asleep in bed. He never knew I had a pistol in my hand. It was out of sight. I wasn't threatening him with it, pointing it at him, or showing it to him, but I had it. I was hoping he wouldn't try to break in, but I was ready if he did, luckily. And I'll let you decide who it was lucky for. He left when ordered to. I went to the courthouse for a restraining order this morning. They told me to come back tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to add that I finally got security cameras. I set them up today. Edit. $300 later, I now have a temporary restraining order against both of them. We all three have to appear in court for the permanent restraining order in 2 weeks. I saw the woman getting served with papers today, just as I was leaving for work. Not sure what to expect when I get home. I have all my evidence put together to show the judge. I wonder what the neighbors will say in their defense. Restraining order. Okay, it's been a while since I last updated. Since the last incident I wrote about in the previous update back in March, I've installed security cameras around my home. April 5th, 2016. I got approved for a temporary restraining order against both neighbors. The county does not make it easy. I have to be at the courthouse early and fill out paperwork. I had to do separate paperwork for both of them. I couldn't just write out both their names on the same form. It all has to be complete and filed by 9 o'clock or you won't be seen. And as for filing, it's not free. I had to pay for both of them. Eventually, everyone petitioning for a restraining order that day all went in the same courtroom, and we were called before the judge one at a time. Some people got their restraining orders approved, others didn't. It was heartbreaking seeing an elderly blind woman be denied. It's hard for someone who can't see to provide evidence. Not that evidence wasn't being presented at the time, mind you. Thankfully, The judge approved me for a restraining order against both of them. I was really worried that I would get the restraining order against the male but not the female, and she would retaliate. Then, I had to pay again to have these restraining orders served. It all cost me $300. Now, this was just a temporary restraining order. It's only good for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks from when it's filled, the case for a permanent restraining order is held, to which the defendants, my neighbors, must attend, or they'll automatically lose. April 6, 2016, just as I was leaving for work, I saw the woman being served. She looked irate, but I wasn't getting in that. I thanked the service officer as he left. I received proof of service the next day, April 11, 2016. When I got home from work, a bit after 11 o'clock, their garage door was open, and the woman was sitting on the chair in her driveway, apparently waiting for me. When I parked and got out of my truck, she went into the garage. They weren't leaving me alone, though. They were doing it so they'd be out of sight and not on video. The male, from inside his garage, started in with his usual harassments, insults, and obscenities as I recorded before, and just to make it perfectly clear, he said my address. I recorded it on my phone, but the quality was poor, even though I can hear them clear as day hooting and hollering. My phone doesn't pick it up or play it back so well, so the police, who I called over, didn't have enough to go on to bring them in on restraining order violation. April 19, 2016, this was today. I arrived at court early in the morning. I just barely made it on time due to weather and traffic. Quite a few people were late. My neighbors were late. I had been hoping they just wouldn't show. So what happens when going for a restraining order is this. Everyone filling for a restraining order that day, and every defendant, is all in the same courthouse. Cases get called one at a time. First, the judge just goes over who is who, clarifies a few things, decides whether or not she will even allow there to be a case for a restraining order. Some people got rejected at this stage, then asked the defendant if they'd like to contest the case. If the defendant contests it, there will be a hearing. This is where both parties present their facts and evidence. If the defendant does not contest it, there is no hearing, and the restraining order is simply granted. In my case, both my neighbors declined to contest it, and the restraining order was granted, but don't let that make you think these people were being rational and saying, "Oh, no." When asked if they had any questions, they asked the judge if they could counter the restraining order, that is, having a restraining order against me. I managed not to laugh. I was already never on their property and never contacting them. They were just doing it out of spite. The male did try to say that I was a danger because I had a gun around his wife. Odd, since for that to be true, his wife would have had to be trespassing on my property at the same time he was. If you've seen my previous updates, you already know what this is about. The male was at my house at 1, at my door hooting and hollering and being all hostile, telling me to die. And I was armed, as I expected him to break in. He didn't know that though. I didn't show my weapon, mention it, or allude to it in any way. The only way he knows about it is because the fact that I possess it as written form on my formal complaint. This weapon, by the way, is perfectly legal for me to own. The judge pretty much blew him off. She said if he wanted a restraining order, he can go through the application process just like I did. If he does, he'll be wasting his own money. Oh, and at one point, while talking to the judge, the woman referred to me as it. Lovely people. We speculated a bit here about drugs and alcohol being involved, but just looking at how they behave in court while presumably sober makes me believe this is really just who these people are as people, substances or not. I was 10,000% ready to go. I had copies of all my police reports, and I had the videos on my laptop to play it all nice and loud. There was no way they could really defend their actions, so they declined to contest the charges, and I got the restraining order against both of them. Basically, they're not to contact me or be on my property. They must maintain a distance away from me, except when at their home, because they live there, and the judge wasn't going to make them move. Given how they behaved in court, still irrational and unrepentant, I believed it's only a matter of time before they violate the permanent restraining order. Who wants to start a pool? Anyways, that's it for now. After I left the courtroom, I went to a nearby bench to organize my backpack and get out my phone. And while I was doing that, the neighbors also left the courtroom. They were muttering something in an unkind tone, but I didn't catch it. I waited for them to go down the elevators before I even tried to use them myself, as I wanted distance. As I was going down, I met up a nice lawyer. He had to drop off a paper downstairs real quick, but agreed to walk me to my car in a nearby parking garage afterwards. Nice man. It's good to know that there are some decent people out there still. Afterwards, I went to a copy shop and got copies of my restraining order made. Then I went to the mall. I wasn't shopping. I just wanted to pace around, talk to my mom on the phone, and blow off steam. Even though it all went my way, it's still a very stressful experience to deal with. If these people didn't know where I worked before, they do now, as it's on the paperwork that they got. So, I dropped off a copy of the restraining orders with my boss on the way home. He was also able to get photos of them off their Facebook, so my boss is going to put together BOLO, be on the lookout flyers, for the security guards to watch out for these people. I need a nap. I want to think this is the end, but I doubt it really is. I think it's only a matter of time before they start testing the limits of the restraining order, looking for loopholes, and eventually escalating. I've got my guard up. If it ever gets to the point where I have to defend myself, at least I can say I did everything legal and peaceful to prevent it from ever getting that far. The rest is up to them now. Thanks for listening. They're moving. This may be my last update. So, it hasn't been quite a month since I got the restraining order. They've been pushing it. One morning, while I was leaving for work, the woman came out. She was out with her dog as an apparent excuse. She was staring at me the whole time, body facing me. She started walking towards the property line, towards my car when I got in it. Then as I backed out, suddenly she needed to be at the mailbox, right where my car now was. I drove away. She was trying to see how close she could get. The whole time, she was in nothing but her underwear. The next day I didn't work. I went outside early to put my bins out, while still wearing my pajamas. She came out and made an obviously fake and loud laugh. Restraining orders don't block laughing. She was trying to provoke me into saying something. Anyways, I found it amusing that she would fake laugh at me for being in my pajamas when she couldn't be bothered to put on pants just the day before. May 11th. I let my dogs out around 9 a.m. As soon as they started barking, I opened the door to let them in. Now, my back door is a sliding door, so I could not be seen, and yet as soon as I opened the door, the neighbor guy was screaming his head off at me. I wonder if he thinks I can hear him from inside my house with my door closed. I can't imagine the point of yelling at someone to let their dogs in when that's clearly what they're already doing. But he's not very bright. My dog's barking may have been the reason for his yelling, or his yelling may have been the reason for the barking. I would not be surprised if he intentionally provoked my dogs just to have an excuse to yell. That's a violation of restraining order, but I didn't let him see me. As far as he knows, I never hurt him. I decided to keep it that way. Anyways, while I'm sure what he said had something to do with insults directed at me and my dogs, for some reason, I decided instead to sound like an awful hey. Now would be a great time to mow your lawn, so I did. I'm sure he loved that. I'm sure he loved that I did so with my headphones on, and never once looked towards her house. Yes, I admit, I enjoy some petty revenge. But then it was about 10 a.m., well past when any reasonable person would expect quiet. But these aren't reasonable people, and as satisfying as it was to run my mower and completely ignore their impotent rage while having all laws on my side, I did worry somewhat about retaliation, so I remained armed the whole time. Later, after I finished mowing, I attended to some other yard work out front. Once, I rounded the corner of my house just as their van was pulling out of the driveway. They honked. I'm sure they yelled too, but I had my headphones on. I kept an eye on them in my peripheral vision, but never looked in their direction or responded at all. As far as they know, I never even noticed them. I'm not stupid though, and I ran back around my house and out of sight. Now, I could report restraining order violations, but these being relatively minor, I don't imagine how much would come of it. But there is something incredibly satisfying about just knowing that they're raging over me, and I'm just not responding to them, and not even acknowledging them. May 12th, the next day, yesterday at the time of writing, I saw the for sale sign in front of their house. I am so happy. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to pull something just as they were leaving, like disgruntled employees on their last day of work, so I'm not letting my guard down, and I'm keeping those security cameras rolling. If anything else does happen, I'll be writing here again. But apart from that, it looks like this is finally ending. Unless they do something else before they move, this will probably be my last post on the topic. It's not a very climactic end, but I'm happy that peace and quiet are finally within sight. I'm considering whether or not I should check public records after they move and pass along my contact information to their next neighbors, just in case they ever have problems and need help from someone who has dealt with these people before. But I'm not sure if that could get me in trouble. Thanks to everyone who has been reading this and given me advice. Your support and advice has helped me a lot. I might not have ever even gone to the police if it wasn't for this sub. Thank you.